Toe yoga is incredibly helpful in terms of beginning to improve some of the stability in your foot. It's also good for the flexibility of your big toe and then also your other 4 toes as well. It's really important that your toes can move separate from one another because this is what happens in normal gait. What ends up happening is that we start to use certain muscles and movements of joints in order to compensate for the fact that some other parts aren't doing what they're supposed to. The muscles that are in part responsible for controlling the movement of your foot in toe yoga, they actually start in the calf and shin area. And there are also muscles that are intrinsic to the foot as well. Now, what gets challenging is when you're trying to extend one while flex another. What happens a lot of times is that some type of big toe dysfunction is also tied to some type of arch dysfunction. If you have plantar fasciitis, if you have posterior tib tendonitis, peroneal tendonitis, shin splints, it's likely that doing toe yoga will be part of the equation in terms of solving that problem. The other thing too actually is that when people have issues further up the chain, so glute tendinopathy, tendonitis, high hamstring tendinopathy, these sorts of things can be related to actually some dysfunction in the foot. So it wouldn't be surprising if what you needed to do was also work on that foot and some of those mechanics, because with things like running and walking, the function of your foot is so strongly tied to the function of your hip, in particular in the propulsion motion. So being able to push off from your big toe is really important in terms of being able to activate your glute. Now, what we're focusing on today is the making your toe yoga better. So there's a lot of value to first doing the toe yoga as an isolated exercise before you integrate it into something like a functional exercise. Okay, so you start with it in an isolated way and then you move into the integrated functional way. What happens a lot of times is there are 2 problems. People keep it as an isolated exercise and then it never gets incorporated into a functional activity like walking, running, or some of this other strengthening. Or the thing is that people try to do the integration a little bit too soon. So you want to make sure that you can isolate it first before you start integrating into something else. For other issues related to your foot, we have a few other videos that we'll link that will address some of the flexibility and a little bit of the strength. Today, I really just want to focus on just toe yoga and making it better. But don't forget to check out the other videos that are helpful for that whole movement of the foot, including the big toe and the arch. For toe yoga, you're going to try to press your big toe down as you lift the other 4 toes up, and then you're going to switch. You're going to press the 4 toes down as you lift your big toes up, and you're going to alternate back and forth. So you're going to move nice and slowly, trying to focus on getting those big toes up and then switching back and forth. So you're going to try to focus on getting all 4 toes down and while you lift the big toes up, and then pressing the big toes down as you lift your toes up. And you don't have to hold, maybe pause for just a second or so. We're just going to go back and forth. You're going to do 3 sets of 10. Now, here is the first tip. You really need to focus on making sure that you're keeping your arch lifted. So if you're already starting with your arches collapsed like this, that's not going to help you. It's not going to teach your foot how to be in a more stable position. So make sure you check out that video where I go over these arch domes, because it's really important that you can maintain a neutral position in your arch, that they're not all collapsed. You're not going to get the most out of toe yoga if your arch is collapsed. Now, the thing is that my left foot moves very differently than my right foot because I've had a history of pain on this left side. Okay, so I have a bunion on this left side because of an old ankle injury that I didn't really properly take care of. So I have less range of motion on that side. That's a topic for another video, but you'll be able to see the difference of my left and right side. This is going to be a good highlight, okay? Because sometimes when I come across on YouTube these videos for toe yoga, it's these people that have like no problem whatsoever. So you're going to see me with a problem, okay? So I'm pressing this big toe down as I lift my other toes up. But then you notice though how my second toes, they're starting to kind of curl down. I'm really actually trying to keep them lifted as much as I can as I press my big toe down. But as soon as I go to press my big toe down on my left side, you see how my arch wants to collapse. So I need to try to keep that part lifted. So I'm essentially doing that arch dome, but while I'm doing the toe yoga. Then when I go to switch sides, then what happens is I tend to want to overly supinate. So I want to try to keep the weight all through this plantar plate of my foot. So through the metatarsal heads, that's where I want all of this weight. Okay, so then even as I press my big toe down, the pressure is still going throughout this whole bridge of my foot. Okay, and then when I go to switch, then again, I'm not lifting my whole metatarsal head, my big toe off. Okay, so I'm pressing down and lifting my toes up, and then I'm alternating back and forth, okay? So the two keys are going to be to keep your arch lifted and then maintain contact through your heel and then also through through this plantar plate, through the metatarsal heads. Toe yoga teaches you how to separate the function of your big toe from the other four toes. And also it helps to highlight some of the movement that happens in that foot and in the lower leg. Remember, the thing is that you want to first be able to isolate that movement of your toes before you start to put that into a functional exercise.